Hi Year 11, sorry I can't be with you today. I know that I have promised a few how to improve your exam grades with it being a bit unsure about chemistry lessons. I know we only have 2 revision lessons before your actual exams now. So rather than just saying you've got an hour and a half, go revise, I thought I would make a video with some guided revision and some exam tips. Okay, so exam tips. Obviously the first one is to know what's in the paper, and you've already got a list of what we know is going to be in the paper. So that's what you're going to be focusing on for your revision. So some other things to do. Obviously there are some set answers, there are some formulate questions which I'm going to be going through. We're going to be practicing some exam questions. I've got some exam questions right here with me, so I'll be showing you those on the screen and you're going to be having a go at them. A few things. Reading the question is the first one. This is where you bring in your highlighters and things like that, and you highlight the key words. There's something called command words, and that's what tells you what you need to do for the question. So you might have something like state or name, or something that just says, I want one word and it's worth 1 mark, and it's just, can you remember it? If you can't remember it, here's a hint. Temporarily leave it blank. I say temporarily because you will be going back and answering it. But you can look further on in the question, and quite often it will give you hints. Like, can you name the subatomic particles in an atom? I can't remember them. But later on in the question, it asks you something about protons or neutrons. Protons and neutrons, they're subatomic particles. Electrons, they're the other ones. You just needed a memory jog. So if you can't do it, fine, you've forgotten it, you've blanked. Later questions may help you. So just bear that information in mind while you go through the paper, and you can often find things that will jog your memory. Second type of one is describe one. Now, describe ones are fantastic because you don't need to know any chemistry or biology or physics or anything about the subject. You just have to say what you see. So, do I have a describe question here with me? No, I don't. That's typical. So, it will quite often give you a graph, and it will say, describe what's happening. And it's usually 2 things that are happening on that graph. So the first thing is it is either increasing or decreasing. And so that's what you say. The graph shows that the rate of reaction increases or whatever until, and this is where you get the second mark from, until, and you read off the x-axis and you say what time it increases until, and then it decreases, increases more slowly. I know that you've got a required practical on enzymes and pH. The graph shows that at pH 2, the enzyme worked at 67% efficiency. However, when the pH dropped to pH 4, the enzyme only worked with 20% efficiency. I'm literally making it up, but all you're doing is reading off the graph. You don't need to know anything. It shows that this happened, but when this happened, something else happened. So you always need to say 2 things, and you need to state figures from the graph. So you need to just read off the graph and say what the graph says. What does this picture tell you? I'm just going to describe it in words. Imagine that you are trying to describe it. I know a lot of people on their social media, if they put a picture, they will also put a description of the picture for those people who are blind or partially sighted, so that they can have their text reader describe the picture for them. So that's what you're doing. You're doing a picture description for someone who can't see the picture. That's all describe means. Next one's explain. Now what most people do is they try and explain to get that second describe mark. Describe and explain are on the wall behind you, so feel free to turn around and take a look at this. But explain is saying why it's happening. So for the enzyme 1, at pH 2 it was 67% efficient, at pH 4 it was only 20% efficient. Next question, explain why this might be. Okay, so then you need to know that enzymes get denatured. I've just realised that's the biology one because I was doing biology revision the other day. It's not a chemistry one. So enzymes get denatured. So the rate of reaction will decrease. There you go. There's a chemistry one thrown in for you. So you've got all sorts of, you just need to know the key words. The enzyme is denatured. Denatured's a key word. The rate of reaction decreases because the temperature drops and so the energy gets lower. And so there's less energy, so you have fewer successful collisions. So you're using all your key points. You are just thinking, I remember that lesson. What were the key words that the teacher was saying over and over again? And that's what you're putting down for the explain ones. Okay? As I say, I'm trying to do this so that you're not having to learn the entire chemistry syllabus in less than a month. This is what can I do to get the marks? And obviously answering every single question will get you more marks than leaving blanks. But this is just ways of doing something in the exam to try and get as many marks as possible. The best way of getting all the marks in the exam would have been to work as hard as you can for the last 2 years. But sometimes, you know, things like having to work from home means that you're not going to do as well as you could have done. And we know this, so that's fine. So again, on the wall behind you, for the next one, we've got compare and contrast. So compare and contrast is basically the examiner's way of saying, I want you to spot the difference. And you want to put down as many differences as there are marks. So compare and contrast, well, it's not quite spot the difference because you need to find same things as well. Compare and contrast Mendeleev's periodic table with the modern periodic table, for example. I'm just going to see if that is actually on your paper or not, because it's not worth doing it if it's not. Periodic table is not assessed. Right, on higher. And it's not going to be in it a lot on standard. Right, so let's not do that one. Let's do, okay, methods of separating is on the standard one. So you might be asked to compare and contrast chromatography, which is the one where you get all of the colours separating out of the paper. Compare and contrast chromatography with fractional distillation. 2 different ways of separating liquids. So you would say, okay, chromatography and fractional distillation, 2 different ways of separating liquids. However, chromatography separates out coloured dyes and it does it on a piece of paper, whereas fractional distillation needs a fractionating column and different fractions, different lengths of chain of oil. So the different fractions with different boiling points come out at different things. So they're the same because they're separating liquids. They are different because one of them uses how far it will move with water and the other one uses temperature. So you can go on about that. So that's your compare and contrast. The other one is that you will have to know is possibly one of the nicer ones because it's predict or suggest. And when you look at the mark scheme for these, and I hope you have been doing past papers and looking at the mark schemes to see where you're losing the marks, when it says predict or suggest, the mark scheme will often say, or any other sensible answer. So all you have to do is give a sensible answer. Predict what you think will happen to global temperatures if people keep using air travel. oh, well, we know that global warming's happening and climate change is a thing. So I think global temperatures will get hotter because we're burning fossil fuels and we're creating more global warming. They're not often worth a lot of marks, but you need to say, this is what I think and why. But again, it's just using your common sense. It is just thinking, what might happen? But you could say, if air travel continues, no, I think that global temperatures are going to stay the same, or I think that they will get cooler, because the more people travelling by air, the less people driving to their destination, and cars give off more, and individual use cars would cause more pollution than public transport, planes. So it can go either way, so long as you've got a sensible reason for it. So what I would like you to do now is we are going to look at some exam questions. You can do this one of two ways. You can either get one of your past papers and go through it and look at the questions you got wrong, read the questions, see why you got those questions wrong. If you're one of these people who's really struggling with answering the question the examiner's asking rather than answering the question you want the examiner to ask, and I'll be honest, I was one of those as well, what would really, really help is going through some of your old exam questions and past papers and just writing down what the question is actually asking you. So if it is saying describe, then just say what you see. Okay, so you are picking out those key command words and you are saying what is going on there. You are have a go at them after that and take a look at what you've put down in green pen to improve on them, and you're going to be working through that. I will be making another video in a minute where we're going to be working through exam questions together, and you'll be pausing the video, figuring out the answer, and I'll be going through what is the answer and why. All right, take care and hopefully see you fairly soon. Bye.